blood, He has saved me with His glory and raised me to God be the glory for the things He has done. Just let me live my life. Let it be pleasing unto Thee. And should I gain any praise, let it go to Calvary. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To God be the glory for the things He's done. He's done. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To
You are not alone. While some Christians are jumping on a bus of sweat, while others are sleeping with their hearts closed and their legs open, while some pastors are fanning flames which they themselves lit and are oppressing God's people with their self-centered, candy-coated prosperity gospel, in a world where everything very soon will become debris, in a world where our leaders are walking around as headless chickens, stepping out on pedestals, crying peace and unity, but behind the closed doors plot wars, in a world where God's sheep are starving from a lack of the word, we cannot feed the goats any longer. There is coming a war which God's people must be prepared for, one which cannot be fought by human hands. It was during the crucifixion week, that Sunday, according to St. Luke chapter 19 and verse 41, the Bible says, "Now as he drew near, he saw the city, and he wept." I want to ask, why would Jesus weep? He didn't weep for his own pain. He did not weep for himself. It was for those people who would crucify him. It was for those people who would deny him. After 33 and a half years of preparation, he was now ready for that hour. After 3.5 years of healing the sick, cleansing the leper, restoring sight to the blind, feeding the poor, forgiving sins, the people still did not see that his kingdom was not of this world. So he wept. He wept for those who would be used and abused by those who prayed over them. He wept for those who would be sexually abused as children, those who would be physically abused as wives. He wept for even those who would go as far as to sell their souls to gain the wealth of this world. Jesus wept because no matter how many times you went to church and prayed and fasted, you still ended up in sin. But still, he took that trip to Calvary's Hill. Still, in tears, he decided to bear that cross. Bear in mind that they whipped him with that cat of nine tails, shredded the muscles in his back. You can imagine he cried for every whip. And on top of that, they threw on him that heavy, old, rugged, wooden cross on his back to travel up that hill. He cried. When they raised that cross, when they nailed his hands and his feet in that cross, he must have cried. And even before that, that Thursday night, when he prayed and he said it felt as though he was about to lose his life because of the pressure of your sin and my sin, your guilt and my guilt, your shame and my shame, your pain and my pain. He cried out to the Father, "Let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but your will." His will gave up, but his faith did not give up. So he stood the beating to his face, the whipping to his back, the crown of thorns on his head, the spit in his face. He bore it. When they placed him on the cross, he was in a permanent position of exhale, which means that in order for him to get some air, some oxygen, Jesus couldn't breathe. Jesus cried out, "Can't breathe." So he had to pull himself up, inhale, then let himself down while his back was on the wooden cross. And so Jesus would have cried multiple times, but he stayed the course so that humanity would be saved. Let me jump to Daniel chapter 3, where we find Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael in the burning fiery furnace. And there was a fourth man that showed up in the fire. This same Jesus showed up for them in the fire. And it allowed them to know that though they were in the fire, they were not alone. Though they were in the fire, someone else was bearing it with them so they could handle the fire. Allowed them to realize Jesus was not there because he wanted to be there. He was there because they were in the fire. Jesus was not just there for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but he was also there for those who bowed, those who refused to stand up for Christ. So you may be one of those persons. You know Christ's voice. It says, "My sheep know my voice." We can't entertain the goats any longer. If you are Christ's sheep, it's time to stand up for him and get on the firing line. For Jesus, it took everything. If it weren't for Simon of Cyrene who helped him to carry the cross, we don't know who. Somebody would have to help. But Jesus must have fallen down, maybe on one knee, but he was not protesting the crucifixion. His body gave up, but he did not give in. So, took everything for Jesus. For us, it will take the meekness of Moses. It will take the strength of Samson. It will take whatever perseverance Jacob had when he wrestled with God. It will take the heart of David. It will take the wisdom of Solomon. It will take the zeal of Paul and the vision of John the Revelator combined in order for us as God's people to endure this impending war. It will take everything. But I want you to know that every step of the way, you will be accompanied by the man who died and rose again on the third day. The man who endured everything just so that you might live. In your deepest, darkest hour, you were never alone. Everything helped to make you stronger. Everything helped to build your faith in God. So going forward, He will be with you always. You are not alone. Come on, let's fight together. Let's endure the fire together. Let's stand up for righteousness.